there's one officer online, so I curtail a lot of what I'm speaking because it doesn't apply to members online because there's nobody online. So the meeting is being broadcast live over the internet and will be available to view online now and in the future. Can members please be aware that the meeting is being transcribed only for the purpose of producing the minutes. This transcript will be deleted once the committee approves the minute. The transcript should not be downloaded by anyone other than Democratic Services. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings. I have had no requests for people to speak Welsh today, so the meeting will be conducted in English only. Other than that, I don't believe there's anything else I need to say. So, welcome. Attendance. I know all members are here apart from Anthony Hunt, who's elsewhere working today. So we'll make him item 2 as well as apologies for absence. Us all being here, there are no other apologies, so we'll jump to 3. Monitoring Officer, declarations of interest. Anything you wish to advise?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Leader. With regard to agenda item number 6, which relates to the One Voice Wales Charter, Councillor Peter Jones wishes to declare personal interest as a member of Cwmbran Community Council, and Councillor Jones is also the chair of the Local Councils Partnership Committee. Can I ask Councillor Jones to confirm that interest, please?
Yeah, I confirm that interest, thank you.
And Councillor Sue Morgan is a member of Cwmbran Community Council. If I could ask Councillor Morgan to confirm.
Confirm, thank you.
Thank you, I'm not aware of any other interest.
Confirmation of the Cabinet minutes of the 2nd of September. They're there before you in your pack. Are members happy to approve those? Can I have a show of hands? That's lovely. Thank you very much. Item 5, action sheet. Again, it's there before you. Deputy Chief Executive, any actions arising?
No, there's no outstanding actions, Deputy.
That's what I meant, outstanding actions, not actions arising. Sorry. One Voice Wales Charter is item 6, and I believe you're going to lead us on this, sir.
Thank you very much. So the report that we've brought before Cabinet today relates to the One Voice Wales Charter. The Charter is essentially a document that defines our relationship as a borough council with our community councils, our town and community councils. As members will be aware, we've been on a journey over the last year to transform our relationship with our communities and with our partners, and town and community councils are a critical partner within that network. And as part of that journey, we've been working for a couple of years now on the specifics of some wording to govern the Charter between us. That Charter will set out a collaborative framework between the Borough Council and the town and community councils as to how we work best and most collaboratively together. The Charter was co-designed with town and community councils. It's based on a template produced by One Voice Wales, which we've then adapted to make appropriate for the context that we're in. And it's been discussed and developed and shaped by the Local Councils Partnership Committee. So that's the committee between the Borough Council and the town and community councils. Just to draw members to some of the key points within the Charter. So the Charter outlines areas such as governance, financial arrangements, ethical standards, joint working, youth engagement, consultation, communications and recognition. So those are the key headings that are contained within the Charter. If I draw members just to some of the key points within those, just briefly. So under recognition, the Charter recognises and outlines how the Borough Council and the town and community councils respect each other's roles. So I've been really clear on our work as partners of equal status rather than hierarchical tiers of governance. On consultation and engagement, the Charter recognises the need for both parties, the Borough Council and the town and community councils, to engage in a clear and meaningful process, particularly in relation to policies and policy setting. There's a general understanding that not every single decision that's taken we will be able to communicate in advance to town and community councils, because some decisions need the broad commitment to that engagement around policies, which has now been agreed. Just pulling some of the other critical parts out of this. So responsiveness, which is around the speed at which a town and community council's inquiries are addressed by Borough Council officers. The Charter actually sets out how that infrastructure has now been put in place through a members' enquiry system, and how the town and community councils will be able to engage with that system. And finally, it covers areas such as local elections, so how we ensure that local elections can be conducted freely, fairly, contested, and encouraging people to become involved in local democracy. So the Charter's there in its entirety for members to consider. It's included as Appendix 1, and the recommendation in the report is that Cabinet formally now adopt the Torfaen Charter on behalf of the Council and endorse its implementation across the relevant council departments and partnerships.
Members, any observations? Peter?
I'd just like to put, Chair, I'd just like to put thanks to David. This has been a long time in developing David. David's done an enormous amount of work on this, as have the community councils. I think it's a good document. It is recommended by One Voice Wales that we have a charter in place like this. It was agreed with the community councils at the last meeting that we bring it forward now to Cabinet, and I wholly endorse the recommendation in the report. Thank you.
Any Sue?
More of an observation, really, but there are many councillors who are both borough councillors and town or community councillors, and I think that that can be really helpful in pulling together the sort of cohesion and collaboration that this charter sets out. I'd just like to ask is, in terms of joint working, the practical examples of joint working are really important to show our communities that we work together on their behalf. And just like to mention the fact that the 3 town councils have long held an eco-quiz. And this year we are working with them to bring the finalists of their eco-quizzes and the winners together into a championship. So that's the sort of role that the Borough Council can play in bringing together that kind of work. And I think it's a lovely example of joint working. I think we should be seeing many more of those, and hopefully the Charter will help underpin how we conduct ourselves as we do that work. But it's the work that's the important thing. I just wondered if you'd agree with that, Dave and Peter.
Happy to come in there. I absolutely agree. Yeah, the joint working is critical, and one of the aspirations behind the Charter is how do we turn examples of really, really good practice in joint working into something that's systemic, into something that's rolled out across. And this has always been the challenge that the town and community councils have rightly put to us. The Charter is there to define that relationship, so there will be training that goes on behind this Charter across the workforce to really hammer home the core principles of joint working, so that we can have more examples of that going forward.
Just so if I can just give an example. I mean, one of the big benefits of the local council partnership council is sharing information. At the last meeting, Pontypool Council shared their strategic action plan with us. And now last night I was attending a community council's committee, and they're now setting up a task group to look at the strategic action plan. And they've got a template from Pontypool that they can look at. I'm not saying they're going to use it, identical use of it, but this sharing has to be a good thing. And the more of that we can do and encourage, the better.
I think you need to be thanked, Peter, for your role as chairing LCPC. Many moons ago, I chaired it on behalf of the former leader, and it doesn't even resemble what it is today. So it can seem a thankless task, but this charter and previous charter, to some extent, has been the bedrock of it progressing and moving forward. I think of names like Dave Orthan and Ruth Tucker, who were the forming people for the previous charters. But the excitement of this charter is, I actually think the co-production gives ownership to both the authority and town and community council, and will be the bedrock for your future partnership committees and the new working relationships between the borough and the town council. Is always seen as a them and us, and as you rightly say, it's equal partners, it's for the same communities. as much as you can be about the Charter, but I'm very excited about this, and in particular the youth voice, bearing in mind the UN Charter, which I display on the wall in my office because it comes under my portfolio, but to encourage youth, and we've seen youth in this chamber present to Council, you know, they are our future, to involve them in the political process and governance of our communities, I think is so important. So more power to the ELBO. As Dave said, the recommendation is that Cabinet formally adopt the Torfaen Charter and endorse, God, I've got to get better glasses, and endorse, I've gone too far now, and endorse its recommended implementation across all relevant departments and partnerships. Are we all agreed with that and happy to note so? I think that's unanimous. Okay, item number 7, Torfaen Climate and Nature Emergency, Sustainably Managed Grasslands in Torfaen. Gentlemen, do you want to come front and centre? Pull a chair across if necessary. Or it's just yours, Andrew. Okay. Mandy, you going to kick off and Andrew follow?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to produce this report regarding our approach to sustainably managing grassland in Torfaen. Since 2020, we have adopted an annual cut and collect method across 31.6 hectares of grassland at selected sites in order to enhance biodiversity and help mitigate the impacts of climate change. This approach not only supports our climate and nature emergency action plan, but also helps us meet our legal obligations for biodiversity and ecosystem resilience. Last week, we received positive results from a series of ecological surveys which showed improvements in plant diversity at 92% of the 31 sites surveyed, so it's really good news. Torfaen is leading the way in Wales in managing grassland for biodiversity. This proposal aims to build on our success by working with communities to introduce additional sites on a phased basis, and I understand there will be a lot of community events going forward as well. I will now hand over to Andrew Osborne, our Group Leader for Environment, who will provide an overview for the report and answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Owen. So the purpose of the report before you today, members, is to update you on progress with the Council's revisions to grassland management in accordance with the actions set out, as Councillor Owen has said, in our Climate and Nature Emergency Action Plan and the Biodiversity and Ecosystems Resilience Plan. It's also to agree proposed changes to the management of identified grassland areas on a phased basis during 2026 and 2027. Sustainably managed grassland contributes to the delivery of the Council's Climate and Nature Emergency Action Plan and its Biodiversity and Ecosystem Resilience Plan and the Environment Act 2016. In November 2025, the Council's Economy and Environment Scrutiny Committee supported a proposal to increase the number of grassland areas managed in this way through an annual cut and collect approach, which was subsequently presented to members via a series of environment operations area meetings and email correspondence. This engagement was followed by a public consultation exercise. Surveys undertaken to ascertain the biodiversity benefits of the approach on land already managed in this way by the Council have demonstrated positive biodiversity benefit related to plant and animal species, as referred to by Councillor Owen. Of the 40 Council members, only 2 have raised objections to this proposal. And from the consultation exercise, 63.7% of residents indicated they support the approach. Only 23.2 were not supportive, with the remaining being unsure. Objections to the proposals are fully detailed in paragraphs 5.4 and 5.8 of the report, along with responses and solutions to explain or resolve these. Key objections relate to perceptions that selected sites will appear unkempt or untidy, and the belief that the Council may be trying to make cost savings in relation to this. So, given that over 63% of respondents to the surveys are content to accept that in mid to late summer, the areas may look a little tired as the plants put their energy into next year's wildflowers, but the areas still have vital importance to pollinators, other insects, birds and mammals like hedgehogs, and many people enjoy seeing these. With regards to cost, there are no financial implications as a result of this proposal. There is no intention to save any costs, but and also it wouldn't result in an increase in costs. So the report recommends that Cabinet approves the proposed changes to the management of grassland in order to enhance biodiversity and promote the resilience of ecosystems. Thank you.
Any members got any comments, observations or views they wish to express, Dave?
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, you referred to in 4.6 that it was a bit of a mixed year, 2024, in terms of invertebrate surveys. You know, I think this was reported on in the news as well, that the numbers were generally declining. But nonetheless, it's encouraging to see that two of the sites that you did collect data on since then has shown an increase in biodiversity, which I think is really welcome, and this is ultimately what we're trying to achieve here. So has there been any further kind of, are there any further kind of biodiversity surveys to, how often are you taking these surveys, how often are you monitoring that increase in population?
Well, the ongoing surveys on an annual basis. The year you referred to was particularly poor summer. You remember the year before last, it was a very bad summer, very rainy, and that's why I think nationwide there was a decline in insects. So, I think it was a blip really, but like you say, overall, I think the surveys have shown it is a benefit from what we're doing. I think we're confident in that.
Yeah, just to say that I really welcome the understanding that there'll be engagement and a phased approach to this, because that local ownership and understanding of the grasslands that are around people's homes is so important. So Councillor Daniels and I were at a lovely event in our ward on Sunday where we were planting native spring flowering species in amongst areas that would be left uncut during the summer period. Previously, wildflower plugs had been put in. So I think when the community kind of understands that grassland management does take a little bit of time, and the diversity of wildflowers takes a while to establish, but that there are things they can do to help encourage that biodiversity. It was just lovely to see the children there enjoying and understanding that when you put things in the ground, they take a while to grow. And I think that's a really important lesson for all of us.
I mean, also just to make the point that, I mean, I think a good side effect of what we're doing is things look lovely, plants and biodiversity flourishes and whatnot, but that isn't necessarily the main goal, things looking nice, and I think that needs to be really emphasised, that sometimes these things don't look nice, and that's not the point. It's to encourage biodiversity and all sorts of creatures. They live in all sorts of habitats, all sorts of situations, some of which may look unsightly, but the bigger picture is encouraging this, because I think that there's all sorts of systems that we don't see that are absolutely crucial to us, that we just don't realise. And I think we need to get better at explaining that to people, because I think there is a lot of assumption that everybody's on board. I am very acutely aware that some people aren't in favour of environmental initiatives, and I think that just means it's incumbent on us to explain why we're doing what we're doing, because there's so many important initiatives that we're doing that are encouraging biodiversity. It's been well publicised that we need pollinators, that without pollinators, humans would be in dire trouble, and there is something in the middle of that which involves us doing what needs to be done, and it's not always pretty. So, I just wanted to make sure that point was made, really, because, it's not always going to be pretty, but it is absolutely necessary.
Coming back to your point, Councillor, and Councillor Morgan's, I think it's absolutely essential that we bring the public with us on this. And we've got examples of where public have been quite concerned and in many ways opposed actions on a particular site. But having gone to meet them then and discuss it with them, explain to them, very often we find those people become advocates, and they actually work with us then, and it's a great thing to do, working with communities.
Well, I'm always pleased to hear you say that, Andrew. It is vital that we work with our communities and help them, and I think there may be even some assumed knowledge as we're talking around the table. When we do cut and collect, It means that when we take away the grass, the ground becomes less nutrient diverse, and then more flowers can come through. And that's something I don't think, because I'm always telling people this, and they're always surprised by it. So I think it's important to note that it could actually bring wildflowers, natural wildflowers through. But I can also say anecdotally from what I've experienced in my own area, and I reported it to the council because I was so excited, but as a result of cut and collect on one patch of ground, some bee orchids started to come through. I'd never seen these before, and I'm an avid gardener, so it was one of those things my husband wouldn't notice, but I did. And it was really exciting to see that diversity coming through that I'd never seen before. So there are positives there, but we need to help people understand why that, cut and collect can have a huge value to bringing through those natural flowers and the biodiversity that will follow as a result.
Again, I just want to say thanks to you, Andrew, and the team, because I know there's a lot of concern from residents about it's not pretty, but we will be cutting the verges and the margins. I think this is one of the biggest concerns that residents do have, but it's encouraging then that the work that has gone on in other areas where people have been against it, and it's hard work from Fee and the team to sort of turn those concerns around and then encourage the wildflower planting, which I know a lot of communities are doing. So I just want to say a big thank you to you and the team as well for all your hard work on that.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to use Mandy's camera.
Because I pinched yours.
She pinched mine, yeah. Thanks for that. Yes, so in 5 years we've had a 92% improvement in biodiversity. That's pretty incredible, isn't it? And I was looking at the public engagement, the events you've had through campaigns with a Great Big Green Week and Wales Nature Week. I just wanted to ask, are you doing anything with schools? Are we getting our children out to help maybe measure the level of biodiversity, doing little mini beast, like treasure hunts, so to speak, or planting the wildflower plugs? So, yeah, any work with schools happening?
Yeah, there's a lot of work going on with schools as part of our overall community approach. And as you'll probably be aware, we've got Chris in the team working with V, and he's out all the time doing practical activities such as Councillor Cross mentioned just now. And so there's lots of activities. That's not to say we can't do more, mind, and I'd like to be doing more. So, yeah, we will continue.
Is there another one for you? And I've brought it up in other meetings, but it'd be good to see more citizen science happening where communities can be more engaged and actually see it for themselves. I think it's always more powerful when a neighbour tells me, or a friend or a family member tells me something that they've learned, and when you can actually see that yourself. But also that's activating the community, which is a huge resource to be able to gather that data and, not necessarily prove a theory, because that's not what I'm saying, but to gather the data to be able to show us a plethora of information that we wouldn't necessarily be able to get ourselves as one council.
And I just want to add as well, this isn't just a council initiative, this is a Welsh Government initiative. And I know a lot of our partners are well on board as well, and I know ourselves are looking at increasing their biodiversity areas as well. So, we know that they own quite a lot of our land and grass areas in Torvine. So, yeah, just wanted to add that.
Anybody else? Good. A nice reflection and positivity there of what's going on. So I'll echo Mandy's comments about thanks to you and your team for the work and getting that out into our communities and broadening people's understanding. So, as Fiona suggested, she used a wonderful expression, which I've totally forgotten, but that they can get out and spread the word as well, because sometimes when it's not the council telling you, as Fiona said, by neighbours and what have you, it does tend to sink in just that little bit more, because for some reason they don't believe what we say as a council, but there you go. The recommendation is in paragraph 8, and it is recommended that Cabinet approves the increase in the number of sustainably managed grassland sites phased in over the years 2026 and 2027, as set out in the report. I'm guessing all members are going to be in favour, but I'll give you the option. So can we please show? Don't you dare. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Thank you, Andrew. That concludes today's business, ladies and gentlemen. The next meeting of Cabinet is the 25th of November, where I believe the leader will take over the reins after the shambolic approach I've given today. Thank you all. Cheers.